Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about Innotribe. For those of you who have not had a chance to visit the Innotribe space at this conference so far, you're going to want to make sure you do that. We are going to get you a little bit of the highlights that have been going on at that space over the last few days. And joining us to do that, JP Rangaswamy is a chief scientist at Salesforce, and with us as well is Peter van der Owera, is a co-founder of Innotribe. So, Peter, tell us what have been the highlights at Innotribe so far.
Kavita, this year has surpassed all our wildest expectations. If I just give some numbers, yesterday evening we were at over 1,400 people that have visited and been in the sessions in our Innotribe space, which is already way over the numbers we had last year at the end of Sibos. So that only can get better. We had a fantastic opening. The room was set up for 240 and we had 307 people for the future of money. Highly interactive. Gottfried joined us. We had a great, on Tuesday, network insight session about big data, about network insights. And just this morning we had a fantastic session on best innovations in fintech. We had two speakers. One was Spaceform and the other was Ripple. And I think we have seen in the Innotribe space today the future is already there, and if I would quote William Gibson, it's unevenly distributed. The other side of the conference is talking about settlement and payments in one day. What those guys have shown in real time live over the internet is in 5 seconds. That's the sort of disruptions that we have shown in our Innotribe space.
And you have had a guest, a very esteemed guest, this gentleman here sitting with us.
Yes, I'm very pleased that JP is with us. JP is also one of the Innotribe enablers. And I've seen JP doing synthesizing of sessions before. He's so great. And I've invited him in our campfire session later this afternoon as the wise man of the tribe, who is growing like the tribes. At the end of the day, they sit around the campfire and share the learnings. What we are going to do is share the learnings of the week. And JP will be joined by Andrew Davis of HSBC.
It's been a real privilege to be able to step back and rather than be one of the speakers, one of the participants, to stand back and see what's happening. The perspective I've gained, I want to share it across 3 points really. One, this has been about commingling, a community coming together around one of the hardest questions we're facing as people interacting today, that of trust. Okay, there's been a failure of trust in many of the things we normally deal with. And particularly when it comes to the banking sector, people are coming and asking, so how are we going to recreate what we had? And standing just at the entrance to Innotribe, which I've had the chance to do a few times, the first thing I noticed is that humanity was integrated here. Okay, people from all walks of life, caste, creeds, colors, etc. You were genuinely in a cosmopolitan place. So that coming together, which is an essential to rebuild that trust, was happening. And it was there in gender, it was there in age. It felt, I haven't seen the statistics, this is a bird's eye view standing there. The second piece was, when I looked at innovation, which is what Innotribe has been, the lifeblood, because we need sort of new answers to the new paradigm. We need new tools. I have never seen a stage where a major institution that is an incumbent would speak alongside a two-person startup. So you see a Citibank or an HP speak alongside people who are literally 2 or 5 man bands. Sharing that same stage was something I haven't really experienced that often. I've been to many places that are full of startups and all the startup energy, and there's not a single person wearing a suit. I've been at places where everyone's wearing a suit, and it's all formal. What I haven't seen that often, and I thought this was like a turning point, was the two together. And the third piece, which I think is something for us to mull over, which I'll be also spending some time this afternoon on, is that we haven't solved everything yet. When you look at infrastructure, banking still comes from the viewpoint, we own the infrastructure. Yet the modern infrastructure where a lot of innovation is taking place is mobile, and that isn't owned by the banks. So you then landed up with two pieces that where I would see a lot of demonstrations of the consumer and customer-centric activity, where the suits are now in the audience, watching what's coming, and then the flip side taking place that side, because as I walked around, I found that there was an intermingling. People who I saw as Innotribe members were going and listening to what Peter was talking about, the payment and settlement changes taking place. But those changes are taking place across two infrastructures, institutional and consumer, and how those are coming together. I think Innotribe was showing the way.
And you understand this, I think, way more than everybody else in some cases, because you were initially a startup. You started with, in your company, how many people, and you grew that to, what, 15,000 people worldwide?
Well, I wasn't there at the start of Salesforce, but I still very much get that sense of the balance between the speed and innovation. You know, for 3 years running, we've been the most innovative company according to Forbes, and the kind of decision making, the agility that you need is very much prevalent in the tone. I mean, you know, if you haven't been there, even though today is the last day, I would tell people, come and see what is taking place there, because these two groups of quite different energy levels coming together to solve common problems is a very exciting place to be.
One of the things that we've heard on Sibos TV throughout today, and also some of the comments that we've seen in the press around Sibos TV and some of the other publications here at Sibos, has been this idea of banking has now become a geopolitical problem, if you like. It's become a geopolitical activity more and more. Do you feel that this is, from your point of view, coming from the more entrepreneurial side, do you think these are bankers who are having a whinge because new entrants don't seem to worry about that as much, or and just try to figure out how we can actually solve the problem and throw all their energies behind that? What is your view?
Well, I'm going to reflect on it by what I've seen specifically down that sort of that tunnel kind of atmosphere and into the Innotribe space. I don't think I heard any word or phrase I could connect to geopolitical activity over the last 4.5 days.
Wow.
Right? One of the unusual elements, again, something I'm going to be touching upon later today, was that I get told outside that regulation is a big barrier, that government is a barrier, that large enterprise is a barrier. Those barriers are not visible there, even though the people who represent those barriers apparently are part of the community. Because I think there's a genuine thirst for saying something is happening here and we'd better get hold of it before it gets hold of us. I saw people from different countries come and provide global solutions. There is no global solution possible in a lot of these things unless you solve the sort of protectiveness of the politics. We haven't had questions raised from the audience about saying, I heard a few questions. Someone said, will that work in China? Right? How do you plan to take this from your territory to here? And you'll hear scaling plans, etc. But these were plans of optimism to me, of growth, of future direction, not here's the next hurdle I have to climb. Okay? Or maybe that's what an entrepreneur's mindset is. They just think that's a new market to deal with, a new problem to solve. But it wasn't reflected in a doom and gloom or even a careful scenario. It was much more, we're doing it, we've got this kind of traction, and I think because the energy is coming from the customer at an individual level, it changes some of these dynamics. What do you think, Peter? I mean,
yeah, there was another element that that I found really striking. It was the humanizing aspect throughout.
That's what I was trying to come through with the individual.
Yeah, and so we take always some risks when we make the program of Innotribe. And so some of the risk moments were programming things that were more at the emotional level or at the sensory experience level. So we had this session with Dave Gray where we had almost a Zen type of meeting setting where people had their individual table to draw, to learn to draw. and people love it. So that there is this need for reconnecting with the human being, with the human self, and the grounding back in combination with this this digital world where you're always in the present chuckle, as Douglas Rushkoff describes. So people said, why are you doing this? This is never going to work with bankers. So people are very skeptic. And then the room is packed with that sort of people. So bankers are humans. So they also have the feelings that they want to share with each other. So that's what we try to create at Innotribe. It's connections at human beings, not between functions, between CIO and CIO of company so and so. That's not about what you are, but who you are, and connect at that level.
And it would work, because I think I'm probably the only person at this conference that doesn't have an iPad yet. Everybody that I see, so bankers are humans, they like things that are intuitive just like everybody else, don't they? Let me ask you, the 1,500 people almost that have visited Innotribe so far this week, and more to come, because we're not finished yet, and we've got the campfire at 2:30. What were some of the other highlights, the other things that they really gravitated to?
There was a session around new innovation models that was very strong, in my opinion. So we had, on the one hand, the way how we think about innovation and strategy is moving away from open innovation. So open innovation is usually presented as a funnel, and like you can throw in many ideas in the funnel, and then you have a process, a linear process, and at the end there's something coming out. That's the problem. The problem is that we can't do that in a linear way anymore. What we have to do is to create project teams that are highly iterative, with 3-week type of customer contacts. And if the project doesn't succeed in creating a minimum value proposition in, let's say, 6 months' time that is paid by a customer, then you should stop the project. So it's a high velocity in innovation with a lot of interactions with direct customer feedback that is becoming much more important than older models where you try to separate the castle from the sandbox, because the sandbox is then looked at as something that is completely isolated. It's not really trusted because it's seen like a playground, and the day it comes back out of the sandbox and you have to bring it back in the core, then you hit a problem. So I think the innovation challenges are mainly around clarity of vision and clarity of focus, or where you want to put your innovation energies and scouting and money, and on the other hand, in getting ideas and concepts out of the sandbox in real life in the hands of a customer.
I think Peter touched on a key point again that is characteristic of the transformation. There was a lot of focus, because of saying there is a trust revolution here, on what value means. You know, so what values do you stand for? What ethics and values do you need to represent? And that then affected things like your view towards intangibles, so that your motives for doing things were no longer just classic ROI alone, right? Human interaction became important, because institutional and machine-based interactions are more likely to lead to the geopolitical tensions than genuine person-to-person. So that personalizing, that humanizing was part of it. The creativity elements, and finding that, you know, like the internet, creativity actually creates a flattening of, you know, of the field, because now suddenly it didn't matter whether you're wearing jeans or, you know, I did see some jackets coming off, and there was a tie tree outside.
Oh, really?
That had some ties that even given the choice I wouldn't wear. but there was definitely this sense that you had to let go of some of your prior sort of restrictions and constraints, and recognize that once you started looking at the value of what you did and why you did it, you are now saying you're going to think differently about funding, think differently about your audience or purpose, think differently about the way you innovate, and I guess think differently, full stop.
Yes, okay. Thanks so much for joining us on Sibos TV.